5.
Brian Rob, J. King, and Sam Packard present Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah! Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. And a 19. Kill around you, White Crazy Joe. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. When Tatum coming back. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Boston Celtics, Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah!
Come on, long. I want some weed. Don't get the next generation.
Let's go, your family friend Celtics. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Your family friend Celtics. Let's go.
What's up? It's Still Potable, the family-friendly Celtics podcast and the best one ever. I'm Jay King from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from MassLive.com. This is one of the 2 free episodes of the week, which means we are brought to you by Prize Picks here on the CLNS network, on the CLNS YouTube page. As always, if you want our other content, you can subscribe to us at patreon.com/stillpotable. We have 5 episodes per week, ad-free for subscribers. They are fantastic content, amazing content, the greatest Celtics content ever. And you should sign up. We're running actually a giveaway right now for Christmas that runs through January 1st. And anybody that signs up now, we're going to give away a subscription to somebody else. So you help yourself by getting the subscription to the podcast. And then you also help out a random Celtics fan that we're going to pick based on a listener's recommendation. So someone who's a diehard fan who will love the podcast, appreciate the podcast. It's the giving spirit. So we're going to give away some free subscriptions. And if you guys want to contribute to that, that would be awesome. Today, we are doing a mailbag show. We have asked the subscribers on the Patreon page to hit us with some mailbag questions. And where else could we start other than with Hugo Gonzalez?
Is it 12? Is it how many Ugo questions? At least it's got to be 5 at least.
It's Ugo fever in Boston right now. I think Bill Simmons has tweeted about Hugo Gonzalez after each of the last 30 games. It's just Ugo fever in Simmonsville, and I think everywhere else. So we'll start with Steven's question on Ugo and Walsh. This is more of a Josh Minot question, really, but it involves Ugo. Ugo and Walsh stand out to me as better or just a step ahead of Minot. What does he need to improve upon to close that gap?
So he's saying, what does Minot need to improve upon?
Correct.
To close the gap? I would say I think there are more lapses with Josh Minot than those other guys. Probably on both sides of the floor, but they certainly stand out defensively at times. And Joe Mazzulla, if we're gonna make a list of guys who've been pulled out of the game this season, I think Minot might be the top of that list. And so, yeah, he's a younger guy. This is not a huge surprise, but this is still his 4th year in the league at this point. So you can kind of see the consistency to be counted on to hone in on whatever they want you to do from the coaching staff perspective. I think that's the main thing. And then I don't know, beyond that, the other stuff getting the ball pulled out of his hands by Isaiah Stewart, I think stuff like that, that's just a tough ask for him. So I think it's in my mind, it's more of the consistency.
Yeah, I think it all starts with the consistency. I don't think it was a coincidence that when Jaylen Brown was talking about Celtics University, which is what he and Joe Mazzulla apparently call their crash course in basketball education for the players, he said, sometimes you got to say, wake up, Josh. And so it was Josh Minot sleeping in Celtics University. I don't know, but I don't think it was a coincidence that Jaylen said his name and not somebody else's. You can tell by the way Joe reacts to Josh Minot's mistakes that he gets very frustrated with some game plan stuff. And I think one happened in the Pacers game, and it was late in the first half, and Siakam scored a bucket from the mid range over Josh Minot, and it was a tough shot, like pretty well contested, honestly, but he must have made some sort of scouting report mistake because Joe jumped all over him afterward and immediately sent, I think it was Ugo, into the game. Minot, who started the game, did
Right,
not start the second half, did not play in the second half, and that was even with Missoula benching the most of the starters. So yeah, Minot, I think it's just all consistency, and he does a lot of cool things. Does a lot of like helpful stuff. He can get rebounds, he gets blocks, steals, but the consistency on a play-to-play basis, and I think just game plan stuff is not where those other guys are, Jordan Walsh and Ugo. And Minot, like it's crazy, crazy, crazy. He has already played more minutes this season than he had played the rest of his career.
That's nuts.
That's nuts because he hasn't really played all that much this season.
No.
And so when you think about it that way, like he's basically a rookie and he's doing rookie stuff. And I think, Ugo is very advanced. Joe Mazzulla doesn't stop talking about how advanced Ugo is with his defensive instincts, how well he's been taught the game, all that stuff. And I think Minot right now is just at a different level awareness wise, which is fine. But he needs to get up to speed to start closing the gap between him and Walsh and Gonzalez right now. And Minot, honestly, like he's had stretches, like he's had multiple stretches where he's looked like the best young wing on the team. But right now it's Ugo's turn, and Minot looks like he's fallen behind a little bit.
It's wild just how much these guys are topping each other. Because you look at Minot's numbers even in December, Jay, he's like 57% shooting from the field, 52% from three. But now it's like his minutes, when Ugo's minutes has gone up, it's pretty much coming at the expense of Minot in these last few games. He's only played 9, 17, 7, 13 in these last 4 games.
And Garza's minutes too.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah,
now that he's back in the rotation,
right,
kind of bumps Minot down a little bit because he was playing all those backup center minutes before.
Right, and that is so. Again, it's tough, and when you're, the defense was starting to fall off a little bit with the small ball lamps, and that's like not all on Minot. That's just like it's a tough spot to put him in. But now again, Garza and Ugo, like these guys are just like coming and taking it. They're playing at insanely good levels these last couple of games, and so you factor that in with what you talked about with Joe and just the, maybe not sticking to the plan as well or not being consistent with it. Then like I said, this is going to be ups and downs all year for these guys, and that's once Minot gets. I don't think he's going to keep playing. It's just a matter of like, is he going to play 5 or 10 minutes a game or 20 to 25? And right now it looks closer to 5 to 10.
Yeah, and obviously these are sliding doors, and anything could change in a heartbeat with this rotation. We've seen it happen a bunch of times already. Luka Garza's playing right now. Will he be in a week or two? Who knows? Who knows? But he's offensive rebounding like crazy, like an absolute madman the last few days. Like he has just absolutely owned the offensive glass. It's been ridiculous what he's done on the glass the last couple of games. All right, we've got a couple of questions. I'm gonna join these two together because they're very similar. Adham, not sure how to say it. Sorry. Also would love some Ugo chatter on realistic ceiling, next year's role, where he needs the most improvement, etc. And Christopher Pellegrini says, "Hey guys, on the last pod, a listener compared Ugo to Manu, which seems crazy optimistic to me. If I were coaching him, I'd want him to spend his time watching Lou Dort and trying to emulate the ferocious D and complementary offense. Where do you guys see him headed, and who else does he remind you of? Love the show. We love you too, man."
Dort's a good one. I think eventually though, Ugo could be like do a little bit more offensively down the road than like Lou Dort can. Like it's wild how much he's became Dort's evolution from coming to the league just not having a good 3-point shot period, and now he's essentially a specialist.
Although he's
Not,
shooting 31%
I mean,
this
yeah,
year.
well, at least was last year, and that thing, like the consistency there is like but that's like what he's like. They're not asking him to do much else on offense.
Yep.
But that, like you said, even that is like he's not a pure shooter, and so the ups and downs are going to probably be there for him, and so, yeah, I think the upside offensively can be like higher than that, and defensively, that's a pretty high bar for him to get to, but certainly is attainable based on what we've seen in these first couple months, and like it kind of reminds me, Jay, of like how Brad Stevens used to talk about Marcus Smart in his like first season, and just be like, I've never had a player who's been this, defensively locked in out. Like Joe has not gone that far, but in these last like week or two, when the minutes have gone up, you can kind of see it being like everything is there in that area that the team wants right now.
Yeah, and his future is tough to envision, right? Because right now it's just like he's a hustling maniac. He comes in, he guards the best player, he's out there to cause chaos, and he should be that for a long time. Like bare minimum, that's going to be helpful because what he does and the level of intensity and energy that he does it with, just aren't a lot of guys who can do that. The Dorts, the Carusos, the Marcus Smarts, like those guys are rare who can do that and do it constantly for a full game against all sorts of different offensive players and just guard them and bother them and just be out there causing chaos. But he's 19. And I don't want to sit here and put ceilings on his offensive game because he's 6'7". He shows some downhill footwork at times. He is shooting 40-something% from three. He's already gifted in transition and has like a flair for nice passing. I don't think this is just what he's going to be as an offensive player. Like I don't know what the level is. And I that's why it's hard for me to like throw out a comparison because like it's just extrapolating so far into the future. And there's a lot of different ways that he could develop, a lot of different ways that his career could go. Christian Brown.
Are they going to ask him?
Christian Brown.
Ooh, wow.
Christian Brown on offense with like stronger, more physicality defensively.
See that I like that because it's like, what are they going to ask him to? Like, this is kind of offensively for as long as Tatum and Brown here. I feel like they're not going to ask him to do much more. So it's like we might wait until like his mid 20s to really see what he can do offensively because he's probably going to be the fourth, fifth option pretty much anytime he's on the floor for the foreseeable, like probably for the rest of this decade at least.
And like, what position will he play?
Yeah,
I think it's very possible he becomes like a point guard or at least someone who can run offense. I could see him developing like that. It would take a lot of work on his handle. It would take a lot of work on a lot of different things. But like he has just a feel for the game that could allow him to do that. And if you throw him at point guard and Jordan Walsh is out there and you got Tatum and Brown and Nemi or whatever center they have at that time, there are some lineups that you can think of with when Jason Tatum gets back that could be really dangerous and really big and really versatile. And I haven't even talked about Derrick White being out there. And so, yeah, it's just hard for me to say like what lane he'll go in. I just know the Celtics should be really excited about how much this kid is impacting winning already. And honestly, if he can continue to defend like this and his trajectory becomes like just a stopper, then whatever you get on offense is a bonus. And I think it's possible that he becomes a very good offensive player just because the instincts and the cutting and the feel is obviously there. and he also has been shooting the ball well. And again, he's a teenager. It's been like, what a start for Ugo. He barely played for Real Madrid last year.
Yeah. Could barely get off the bench.
And now it's just like they need him out there. They play much better when Ugo Gonzalez is
37
in the
minutes.
game.
37 minutes against the Pacers. And 11 rebounds in that game, too. And so that's like, we talk about crunch. The point guard thing is true. Like, I was like, when Tatum's back, is he your crunch time 5? Like, just based on how he's guarded the likes of Towns and Bam and guys like that. Like, the fact that he can pretty much fit into any slot in the lineup at this point already opens up plenty of intriguing options for Joe Mazzulla. And honestly, like, team building possibilities going forward when you're just like, all right, this guy can fit in anywhere. So let's try to get best available player going forward as opposed to needing to fit in a certain, spot on the roster down the road here, because you have the amount of versatility he's shown already.
All right, let's go in a different direction now. Adham, I'm sorry again. What do the rotations look like when Jason Tatum is back? This is a question we've talked about a little bit. I think who stays in the starting lineup is going to be an interesting conversation, because Jordan Walsh, the argument for keeping him in the starting lineup is like he guards the best player, and that's important. He's a low usage guy offensively, and he doesn't do anything wrong on offense. He doesn't take away a lot, and he'll take some of the responsibilities, the burden away from Tatum and Brown. Now, Peyton Pritchard, that's a tough conversation with him. If you leave Jordan Walsh in the starting lineup and have Jason Tatum come and take Peyton Pritchard's spot, then you got to talk to him and be like, look, you're having a great year. You've done everything we've asked. You are clearly worthy of a starting spot, but we're going to take it away from you. And that's tough. So I honestly don't know how Joe will decide that. I think it's also possible, we've talked about this before, that because of minutes restriction, Tatum just comes off the bench when he first comes back, and then maybe it's easier to reintegrate him to save some of his minutes for closing time, and then you have a conversation about like who gets minimized. Like, is Minot out of the rotation? Do you go put more of an emphasis on the small lineups with Jason Tatum next to Josh Minot, next to Ugo Gonzalez, and just play a ton of wings? I think that's possible too. Like, especially if you're bringing Tatum off the bench lineups with all those wings and Jason Tatum could be pretty awesome.
It will be fascinating to see, based on what he can do when he comes back, like how Joe approaches that in terms of like how they want to protect him when he's on the court, if you will, of like taking him off the perimeter versus, avoiding him having to guard big guys down low. Like, I wonder what, obviously Tatum's a great center fielder defender regardless. So maybe you just like want to put him on the weakest non-shooter and let him do his thing from that standpoint. But they can choose the options either way there. And the other thing, I don't know, like Jordan Walsh, we assume Jordan Walsh is going to be a starter now, but like if Ugo keeps going like this in a month or two, like I wonder if he's going to, push his way back into that mix. Not that, and then that'll be, I don't think he'll be able to like supplant that spot entirely, but I wonder if that's going to continue to be the Walsh spot will be a revolving door as this goes on, if Ugo keeps playing like this, or if it's just going to be like he's going to be playing the 25 minutes per game off the bench.
Yeah, and I don't want to it's easy to just go with the flavor of the week, right? And be like, well, Ugo's had these 3 awesome games in a row. Okay, but like Jordan Walsh has also been just a great defender, and he's been part of a starting lineup that has really kicked ass, and like he's done nothing wrong.
No.
Starting lineup, and so now Ugo is coming off the bench, and that's really working out. So I don't see a need to change that right now. I know everyone wants to get hasty and talk about like, should Ugo be starting? And sometimes it's cool to just like leave the starting lineup alone. Team is playing well. Ugo's playing great off the bench. Just ride it. And yeah. Then you get into when Tatum gets back, like, is Simon's going to be on the roster? And we've got a question about that.
All right. Before we get to that though, let's hear from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. It's the holiday season, the best time of the year in sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that's Prize Picks. I don't know about you, Jay. My fantasy season's over. My team went out for whimper in the first round, but with Prize Picks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. You can play pretty much fantasy football every week, pick your favorite players, and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. And Prize Picks also has early payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CIONES to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CIONES to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Jay.
It sure is. It sure is good to be right. I feel that my whole life. Everything I say, everything I do, just always right, B-Rob. All right. B. Chris asks, what do you think the chances are Simon gets moved? And what would a realistic trade look like?
I would put it at better than 50-50. Just from I guess for two reasons. One, financial work if trying to trim the tax bill or just get under it, and B, just because it's a tool, and honestly, this is probably the bigger one now, given how the season has gone. It is a weapon to be able to add to the roster, both for now and the future. It's an important one because it's your one big movable salary that's left there. That's not a core piece. So, they don't have to make a deal with him. If things keep going well like this, I guess you can make the case being like, don't mess with the chemistry of this group with Tatum's going back. Like, kind of just like let this rock and see what happens there. But I don't like it's something where if they're going to make any type of move for a big that has significant salary, then Simons is pretty much the only guy in the roster outside of Hauser that you can talk about when it comes to movable salary.
Yeah. And right now, they're $12.1 million over the luxury tax threshold. If they could somehow get under the luxury tax and add a big man, that would be the perfect trade deadline, right? Like, could you go out and try to get Zubats? Could you try to get Gafford? Could you try to get somebody who makes small enough that you could somehow get under that tax and pick up a guy like that? That would be like Brad Stevens' Moby Dick, I feel like, at this point at the trade deadline. And will it happen? I don't know. But obviously you're going to be dangling Simons as well as he's played. Like he's played pretty well. And he's shot the ball really consistently. He's at least competed defensively. It's not great, but he's at least competed. He's been totally committed to doing whatever role they want him in. He hasn't complained at all about coming off the bench. He hasn't complained at all that he rarely closes games. Hasn't complained at all that he went from first option in Portland to, fourth option in Boston. And he's part of the reason why their offensive numbers have been so great, because You can bring in a high-level scorer, shot maker who helps keep the offense going when some of your main starters are not in the game. So Simons has been pretty good, but at the same time, this team needs a big far more. And like Jason Tatum's coming back, you're not going to need that extra scorer anymore. And so I think the expendable nature of Simons, as well as the reality of their finances, just makes it obvious for them to look around and see what they can get. See if you can turn him into somebody that balances out the roster a little more and can be, a real piece for you at center moving forward,
Right.
while also maybe shedding some salary and if you can get all the way under the tax, save what are they like? The tax bill right now would be $41 million, I think.
Yeah.
You save ownership a ton of money, and you start the process of resetting the repeater tax, which would require being under it for 2 years, but could be possible. And maybe you don't even want to do that because you think this team is too good to stay under. But if you can add a big man, this team, it's not like this team is going to need a lot of pieces moving forward. You should probably feel pretty comfortable at every other position right now. If you do move Simons, you'd probably have to get another guard, maybe, but also you have Jason Tatum coming back. And we just talked about how Peyton Pritchard might come off the bench, and maybe you don't need another guard. So, yeah.
Or Ugo's your backup point guard now.
Yeah. Ugo.
But as far as what it would look like, if they are wanting to get up, it'd have to go two different ways. The Brooklyn, I think, is the only team that could absorb Simon's salary and without having to send enough back to like put the Celtics over the tax. So you're gonna have to add a sweetener to something like that, and you're gonna have to take something back, but you're probably gonna taking a lower salary player back, making $10-12 million. If they don't do that and they still want to do it, then it's gonna have to do like multiple moves, Jay. Like you're gonna have to move Simons, you trim off $6 million and the guy you get back, and then you potentially have to move off that guy or move off a couple minimums. So again, like Mike Zarin and those, they I'm sure they have plenty of potential options drawn out if that is the plan in terms of how to get under that and with Simons, but it won't be a simple process if it's not a deal with the Nets. It'll be a lot simpler if Hauser ended up being the guy that's moved, but that's a far different situation than Simons because he's under a good deal for the next 3 years now. So that wouldn't be a move. That wouldn't be a move you'd want to get something very useful back for him if you're going to consider moving him, I'd say, at this point.
Yes, sir. All right. We're going to switch up the vibe a little bit here. Patty the Batty wants to know, what is your number one fictional kids movie sport hero? And who would win one-on-one, Calvin Cambridge or Peyton Pritchard?
Ooh. You got to like Benny the Jet's up there.
See, I think Adam Banks.
I was going to go Mighty Ducks too. Like that crossed my mind.
Banks literally joined a team full of absolute scrubs. Like the worst youth hockey team of all time. He shows up and they're instantly the best team in Minnesota. All it took was Banks. They for some reason go to prep school and the rest of the team is on JV, which is absurd. Which they go to become a JV team after they've already won a gold medal as a group, and then they become the JV team. But you know who's not on the JV team? Adam fucking Banks. The guy was a prodigy. He had a bunch of kids who couldn't skate, who like just were absolute knuckleheads, didn't have any idea how to play hockey, and he comes in and he's like Wayne Gretzky. He just drags them to a championship. They beat the Hawks. the Hawks, perennial powerhouse. And it was all because Banks went from the Hawks to the Ducks. That was it. That's all it took to turn the Hawks from the most fearsome team ever to runners up. Fucking Banks. Banks is the one that would have been like awesome if
Did he make
like,
the pros though? Did he make the NHL?
I think there's no doubt, as long as he stayed healthy, that Banks made the NHL and had an incredible career that Cake Eater could play. The other one that jumped out to me, like the one that I would have wanted to be, Henry Rowengartner.
Oh yeah,
because you're just a
Good pull.
kid and you're playing for the Cubs. Like you're just a 12-year-old or whatever it was, and all of a sudden you get hurt and throw 100 miles an hour, and you're literally in the major leagues at 12 years old. What could be better than living that dream? Now he peaked way too early, and his arm stopped working, and he had to throw the ephus pitch or whatever it was to get that slugger out. But man, like imagine a year when you're 12 years old and you're just mowing people down in the majors. There would be nothing better than that.
Were you? What about Billy Haywood? Would you want to be Rowengartner or Billy Haywood from Little Big League?
So Billy Haywood has more staying power.
Right.
Like you can be a GM forever. Or was he a manager? I forget.
He was man. I mean, he was the owner, but he made himself manager.
Yeah. Sort of like, yeah. But imagine just playing for 1 year in the big leagues at 12 years old.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the longevity and realize that Haywood could do it forever, then it's a real discussion. As for Calvin Cambridge, I had to look that up. Was that like Mike?
Yeah, I know that went over my head.
Little Bow Wow ain't beaten.
I haven't seen Lake. Yeah, I have not seen that. Yeah,
I don't know if I ever watched Like Mike. I feel like that was like just after my childhood.
Yeah, I think we were probably middle school when that came out.
Yeah, I was like too old by the time it came. When did Like Mike come out?
2002.
Like 2002. Yeah, so I was already in high school. I'm not watching a movie like that. So, Like Mike, Thunderstruck, never saw him. Never saw him. What other ones would be? Spike and the Little Giants was just a badass. Spike whipped ass. Like it'd be tough to beat Spike. What others?
Yeah, like I think that was it for. I think those were the biggest ones for kids. I know you're a huge Space Jam guy, so I mean but that's even just Michael Jordan cartoon characters, so that doesn't even apply here.
Yeah, I was never a Space Jam guy. It's just a terrible movie. Terrible movie. I don't know. Great marketing ploy though, and good soundtrack. Heck of a soundtrack. I believe I can fly.
That's pretty much it.
I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day.
Angels in the Outfield.
Spread my wings and fly away. Angels in the Outfield, though, like there's no athlete from that you'd be like.
No.
Yeah, Benny the Jet is up there. He played in the big leagues, obviously. We know that for a fact. Karate Kid, does a Karate Kid count? Karate Kid was a loser. Just a loser. Daniel LaRusso, he had no friends except his neighbor, old man neighbor. Like Daniel LaRusso was a loser. I don't know why that chick went out with him in that movie. She should have gone after a real man. All right, we're getting too into the weeds. Let's go to the next question. Let's see. Considering the Jaylen Brown leap or step forward this season in self-creation and team offense management, and assuming Tatum eventually returns to his former glory, is Derrick White a potent enough offensive force to be the third option on a championship caliber team?
That's the question they're trying to answer this year, I think, to a degree. I lean yes. Just based off of, I know this hasn't been his best season, and I think you want to have a pretty solid supporting cast around him to be able to, for him to get to that level, which it looks more and more like this team is going to be able to put together. But I've seen enough of Derrick White in big spots, putting, whether it was the 22 finals run, whether it was in the 24 title run, like there's been enough of a track record there, and he's come broken out of this slump to start this season where the onus that's fallen on him, he's like pretty much the confidence is back, Jay, I feel like. And so like the more and more you see of this season, how this plays out and how good Jaylen looks, I guess Tatum is like the wild card here, but I think he's certainly better than potential alternatives you'd have to find if you you think that you can upgrade in that spot, because for what he does on both sides of the floor, I think he's a pretty good damn offensive third option at this point.
He's already been the third option.
Yeah.
He was the third option on their title team. Kristaps missed most of the playoffs. Kristaps had the one great finals game, but other than that, he was barely there. Drew Holiday was fantastic in the Eastern Conference Finals and Finals, but Derrick White was just as pivotal to their offense, and now he's better. And he's a more versatile three-point shooter. He's a more aggressive three-point shooter. So I have no doubts that Derrick White can be the third option. The piece that they still have to figure out is like, and maybe Tatum coming back itself is enough for this. But right now they're so reliant on jumpers. Like they are almost solely a jump shooting team. And it's worked. Like they're scoring a ridiculous rate the last few weeks. I believe it's second in overall offensive rating, but the last few weeks they're up to like 126 offensive rating. Like just absolutely ridiculous offense. But like, can you get to the line enough? Can you get to the rim enough? Can you post up enough? Are you dynamic enough to not just be a great regular season offense, but to then have that offense not stall out against Oklahoma City or whatever, the San Antonio Spurs? Let's say Wembanyama gets a running mate, and in 2 years they're in the finals. Like, because that's how you're judging it. We know the Celtics team is going to be very good. We know when Jason Tatum gets back, they're going to be one of the contenders in the East. And I mean back, not just like on the court, but like when he's right, they will be one of the contenders in the East. They will be fighting for a championship. And that's when your offense is going to need to be good enough. And that's the type of stuff that maybe you can answer by adding another big man, or maybe you can answer by just bringing Tatum back, or maybe they're good enough right now as an offense. Because as I said, their offense has been ridiculous. They've added offensive rebounding at a higher level than they used to. They crash all the time. Ugo Gonzalez is a maniac. Jordan Walsh crashes the glass too. And Nimi, Luka Garza looks like goddamn Moses Malone in the last couple of games. But seriously, like, I have no doubts about Derrick White. It's just, I do wonder if they have enough layers to this offense right now. And if even bringing Tatum back will be enough for that, because he's another mostly perimeter oriented guy.
It's a fascinating question, but the offensive, like, just diversifying with the ability to have multiple crashers on the floor, whether it was like maybe even last year was probably outside of Cornette, like one of their best offensive rebounders. He just obviously didn't play much. But they didn't. The wings that they now have to be able to do this, I think, will help a lot. Obviously, it's helping now, and I think it would help a lot in the playoff series. And Jaylen Brown has talked about it repeatedly through the year, like, hey, like even like 5-10 games in the season, just like, yeah, that's something we could have used the last couple of years, and now they have it in various forms, and they're all young, so they're all going to get better. And that's, you'd think now it's just think they'd get a big man. What type of big man that's going to be, whether it's a stretch big or someone who can do more damage in the interior, that's going to be the fascinating question for Brad Stevens and company to answer. But I don't think I'm with you. Like the Derrick White part of this question is an easy one. It's more just, okay, what are the pieces that you can put around those guys to best accentuate this group?
All right. Next question is from Steven. Which steps, if any, does Nemi have left to take in order to be the starting center on the next contending Celtics team?
Consistency again. I think, again, to a far lesser degree than mine at this point, but I think there's certainly times where, whether it's rebounding stuff, defensive positioning, that there's certainly room for growth there. And I don't know, he's gotten a lot better offensively. I think in terms of like the offensive fouling is down. Just in fouling in general has gotten a lot better for him, even as the season has progressed already. So like he's taken a lot of steps there, but there's still certain games where that comes up. And obviously last night, I think, or the Monday night win, that was certainly one of them, when Joe didn't go back to him until the wheels were falling off of Luka Garza with like 5 minutes left in the game. But I don't know, it's like it's a lot. I think the team is thrilled with that, and there's certainly the door is already open, being like, all right, yeah, sure, Nemi is already in a spot where we're not gonna have reservations about him starting next year. Like in that spot, we like what we're trying to find is not necessarily someone to replace him, but just someone to complement him with.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, you can start Nemi. First of all, I'm not even sure this isn't a contender, at least in the Eastern Conference.
Statistically, it is.
Like, I'm not sure that he's not already the starter, at least an Eastern Conference contender. So that's number one. Number two is like, I'm just there. Do they need another big man? Absolutely. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be someone who supplants Nemi. It needs to be like someone around what he gives you. And then you get 48 minutes of those two guys, and that would be really helpful. Because right now, like, Luka Garza has been great the last couple games. We've talked a lot about how bad overall the numbers have been with him on the court. Like, the offense has been absurd when he's center, but also the defense has bled points. And even though it's overall been a very good thing for the Celtics, those small lineups, I just don't know how sustainable they are. So you need another big man. But I think the Celtics should be very happy with Nemi, how he's progressed, the consistency that he's shown night to night. You don't have to worry about Nemi. And that's a pretty big deal. That is a very big deal, because I wasn't sure about how that spot would look coming into this season. And behind him, yeah, behind him, it hasn't really panned out. But Nemi has been just solid, and that's a pretty big deal. Paul Dumont wants to know, with the abundance of wings in the Celtics system, includes Ron Harper Jr., is there a possibility the Celtics trade one as a headliner to acquire a promising young big? If the Celtics wait till the deadline, could they trade one of Ugo or Walsh for a promising young big?
Mike, I mean, the wings, yes. We've kind of hit on this before, Jay, in the last couple of weeks, of like, that is an area now that's a strength from as a depth chart perspective. So whether there is a center available that's worthy of including one of those guys in a deal, like that's I think unlikely at this point, if not doubtful. Um, I'm not going to call Ugo untouchable, but I think you feel pretty damn close to it.
How close are you?
I mean, I'm like,
Ugo?
well, we'll put it at if you're putting trade value rankings on across the roster, maybe he's like fourth already, behind Tatum, Jalen, and Derrick White. That's where I don't know. Like I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe there's other guys you put in front of him, but he certainly has a case to be in that spot given his youth and what the contract is. Jordan Walsh also is on under contract for 2 more years. Is 21 years old. Like if you're, I don't even know, like Jordan Walsh and like first round picks for Zubac. I think I'm a no on that. If that's what the Clippers are asking for.
You're out on including Jordan Walsh for Zubac
with two unprotected, like with two first round picks. I think I am.
Zubac
like if it's one first round pick and some other stuff, then yeah, we can talk. But that's, I don't know. I guess we'll see what, like 2 first round picks for Zubac just feels like a pretty good haul already. So to add another cheap young piece to that, I talked to them about other guys on the roster, but Walsh has been pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, if I were the Celtics, I would be far more willing to include first round picks.
Yeah.
Than the young wings, because young wings are tough to find. Like guys who are 6'7", can play defense, want to play defense, and
can rebound.
Jordan Walsh is 21. Hugo Gonzalez is 19. These guys are going to be helpful pieces for a long, long time. And yeah, I would value those guys pretty highly right now. Very highly right now. So
yeah, but there's still, then you talk about if one wing has to be included there, you at least can, obviously Shireman, Hauser, there's a lot to go around, like, and someone might not even, like, someone is eventually going to get squeezed out once Tatum's back, maybe multiple guys, depending on how much Tatum can play. So it will be fascinating to see, but they'll have to make a decision on that this year, probably, close to, if not before, Tatum's possible return. So that will be a fascinating subplot, but you certainly feel a lot better now having those conversations about including one of those guys than you would have before the season, just from a depth chart perspective.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Last question from B. Chris. How similar do you think Brad is to Ainge in terms of how they evaluate draft prospects? How much do you think Brad learned from Ainge compared to how much he uses his own methodology?
It's a good question. I mean, they obviously, I think Brad probably learned a ton from Ainge and everyone in that front office going through, but he's someone who, I think everyone has their own way to evaluate their players. So I think Brad was fully, I think I remember a story Danny Ainge told me where back, I think it was probably 2014 draft, 2015 draft, like Brad was kind of pushing for Booker for the Celtics. And he was like way higher him than anyone else. Even this was back when he was in his second year of coaching. So like, I don't think that you probably learn a ton about the process and stuff of your Brad Stevens, but Brad's, he's been a basketball junkie for far before he came to the Celtics. So like, you take that, you hire the people you trust to do the scouting for you, and then you kind of take it all in. So I assume their methodologies are very different because everyone's is if you're in the scouting road, I feel like.
Definitely. So one thing I think they are both very high on is just like guys with physical tools.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously that's not rare in the NBA, but important. But Danny would often seem to go after guys who didn't necessarily have the best shooting track record, but were tough guys, could defend, and obviously had like the physical attributes to succeed in the NBA. Like Terry Rozier is a good example. Jaylen Brown is a good example. Marcus Smart is a good example. Like guys who you weren't sure how their offense would come around, how their shooting would come around. But man, they were gifted athletically, and man, they were tough, and you knew they were never going to back down. And Stevens seems to go after similar types of players. And the one biggest difference I see is like I think Danny was willing to like go after a guy that had sort of like questions about how he'd fit in the locker room, questions about like, is he the team guy? Like, what's his deal? I think Danny would sometimes overlook some of that stuff if the guy was talented enough. Whereas Brad, I think that's like number one to him. And I don't see him overlooking anything like that. I see him bringing in like good people, great team guys, and great locker room guys, guys who are going to work every single day. And I think that's part of what has made this team so effective is like he did go out and find those guys. He found guys who are going to get after it every single day in practice, in games, on off days. And he found young guys across the league who like were just ready to come in and compete. Ugo's one. Jordan Walsh, he's a great competitor, obviously. But I would throw Garza into that mix. Like Minot has been like we talk about how he sometimes makes like scouting report mistakes, whatever. He's obviously coachable. Like he takes all of it and responds to it and tries to get better. And he's been, he's super hungry for a chance. And those are the guys that Brad targets. And I don't think he'll ever get away from that. I don't think like he would not have traded for Kyrie Irving.
No.
He would not have traded for somebody like that who came with as many questions as Kyrie did about like, is this guy going to help like just the team aspect of it? The answer was no for Kyrie. But like, I don't think Brad would take gambles like that with like his locker room integrity.
Agreed. And I think that, that mentality probably just further strengthened after that 18-19 season where he had to manage Brian Kyrie.
All
like there was
sorts
a
of
whole
bullshit.
sorts, like all sorts of guys of agendas. And so that's the experience kind of shaping it.
I've got one last question. I'm not saying that these Celtics are going to end up like the 18-19 Celtics. But what are the issues that will come with bringing Jason Tatum back to this group of young guys who are all thriving in new roles and who are all going to see their minutes slashed and their roles cut? And we talked about Peyton Pritchard might have to come off the bench. Like this is going to be a radical change when Jason Tatum comes back. How worried are you that, not that it ends up like the 18-19 Celtics, that was like just utter disaster, but how worried are you that they will have to deal with some serious concerns of guys who are just kind of pissed off with how everything changes once Tatum gets back?
Honestly, not at all worried from a like chemistry locker room standpoint because it's Jason Tatum. And on top of that, Joe Mazzulla has been yanking these guys' minutes around all year regardless. And so no one's at a point in their career where they've like the young up and coming guys, like no one's playoff proven. No one's done anything yet besides having a few good games or weeks of play in a row.
Peyton Pritchard has.
Peyton Pritchard has, but I think I'm like he's going to still, whether he comes off the bench or starts, he's playing 25, 30 minutes a night. Like his minutes are not going to be slashed considerably.
But what about Jalen? Jalen just said, this has been my favorite season, I think.
Okay, so the Jalen part of it,
how is he going to feel now when Jason Tatum comes back and it's not the same anymore?
I was thinking more about the wings, but you're right. Like that's a different category. And that might be the one I don't know. Like, I guess it's up to Jalen. Like, if they want to be serious about winning a title, then I don't know. Like, is
Yeah,
Jalen
and he's
thinking
always
to move
been
this team
super
to
serious.
Ohio?
I don't foresee big issues either, but I could see where something just simmers up, and they have to deal with some discontent from guys who are either dropped from the rotation or roles change, minutes disappear, touches disappear. I just think it's going to be a huge change for these guys and everybody. As much as you're right, like Joe hasn't let anyone get comfortable. He's yanked guys minutes around. He's yanked roles around. They don't feel comfortable with their minutes yet, I'm sure. But at the same time, like it's going to be a pretty big change for a lot of these guys who are all proving themselves worthy of minutes in the NBA. It's not like they're out there and failing. And Jason Tatum is coming back. It's like these guys are thriving and they're winning and they're contributing to all that. So I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't see it as becoming like something that derails the Celtics or anything like that. Jaylen Brown has always been perfectly. I don't know if perfectly satisfied. That's probably the wrong word, but he's always been more than willing to do whatever the coach asks of him. And I would say most of these guys will probably do whatever the coach asks of them. However, I do think it's going to be hard, just mentality-wise, when Jason Tatum comes back and everything changes for a lot of these guys.
Especially if Tatum's not the guy he was. Like, if he's struggling.
The Gordon Hayward effect.
Gordon Hayward. I mean, right? I mean, that's the real thing you worry about, I think, first and foremost. What you're bringing up here, I foresee that being more of an issue potentially next year after the playoffs if like a few of these guys, start making some noise on that front. If this team has a run like the 2018 Celtics, if you will, in an underdog role, but whether Tatum is on the court for that, I guess we'll see. That'll be a fun little subplot to think about.
Yes, sir. As always, thank you guys. We appreciate all the questions. We appreciate all the support. Again, if you want to sign up right now, we are doing a Christmas giveaway. So for every person who subscribes, we will be giving away a free subscription. Patreon.com/stillpotable if you want our podcast every day, Monday through Friday. We love you all. We will talk to you all soon. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas, wonderful holidays. We'll be around, obviously, but just want to tell you that. Love you guys.
Still Potable, Still Potable, the Boston Still Potable, Still Potable. Oh yeah! Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.